Thanks for checking out my video. If you want to learn more from me, I have a lot of classes on Udemy. You can find the links to a lot of those in the description. Alrighty, so let's talk about the Conjuration of the Watcher. I thought I'd go over this a bit for my Patreon guys and, just to kind of maybe shed a little bit more light on it and just kind of chit-chat about the Watcher itself. So, let me see. So, it's in the Simon Neck, of course, and it is on page 69. Nice. Um, Now, because I have a bunch of my notes and such in Lamadudingir, I just have to find 93. So the Watcher is, you can kind of sort of, some people equate it with the Holy Guardian Angel kind of thing from working with the Tree of Life / Kabbalah, yada yada. In the Mesopotamian stories, the Watcher is one of the Igigi, which are the original like working class beings that the Anunnaki had, and this also kind of pulls from Zechariah Sitchin and his research, but the worker class beings that the Anunnaki had when they came here to mine gold and such. And the Igigi were like, yo, dude, we're tired. We don't really want to do any of this stuff. Can you, like, make, like, a lesser being to do this work for us? Because, man, we're goddamn tired. Now, and that's when you have Enki and Ninkersag create man, and then through some like what you could say if you follow like little ancient astronaut theory kind of stuff like that, or you can go with like the breathing the breath into the dirt, which is kind of the way that it's mentioned in the Bible. Where do you think they got that story from? To create man. I was having some back and forth with some comments on people because anytime that I post some magical stuff like the shorts I've been posting lately, you get people that are they instantly quote a Jesus thing, and okay, let's have that discussion, because I've done a lot of research, that most of these people, they only read the Bible and they don't read the Bible's source material. So they think that something that's written then doesn't have any, or, is original stuff, which it isn't. But anyway, that's beside the point. So the Watcher was a working class being, and then humans were created. And then the Watchers or Igigi didn't really have to do any work anymore, right? So then, according to the Simon Necronomicon, and you could say the Inuit Aleutian stuff, when you had the fight between the Ancient Ones and the Elder Gods, between, Marduk, Enki, Anu, Enlil, and them, versus Tiamat, Absu, Azog Thoth, and all of them, the Igigi supposedly sided with Absu, Tiamat, Azog Thoth, and Kingu, and all of them, right? Now, that being the case, think of this. You have the idea where the Simon Necronomicon says the Ancient Ones are bad, right? The Ancient Ones are all bad, blah, 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 blah. And it says don't work with them. Then why is it asking us to work with the Watcher? Hmm? The Watcher knows the covenant. The Watcher knows of the agreement that he is bound by. And that's why when you make the Bandar, which is his sign, you can find all three of those signs on, I believe, page 11. Then it always has to have the Aga, or the five-pointed star, with it. So, now, the Watcher, like I said, is more of like a spirit guide kind of thing, but its main purpose is to watch, no pun intended. When you have a cast circle that you're going to be doing any kind of ritual in, whether it's just casting the circle to do meditation, or you're going to do one of the 50 names of Marduk spells, or you're going to do something from the Maklu burnings, or you're going to do a gate walk. The Watcher is part of that. Because it's like having a guard dog or a security system in your house. Whenever you are doing things magically, you get these beings, these spirits, like the Gadim and the Alu and the Maschim Hul, that they feed on that energy. It's like flies to a lamp. It's like that moth meme, give me the lamp. Where they come to that energy to feed off of it because they are energetic beings. We are physical and they are of a different plane, which is energetic, and they need food, and that's that. So the Watcher makes sure that nothing gets in your circle. Yes, a circle is a thing of protection, but the Watcher is another level above that. It's like locking your doors, but also having a security system. You know, more than one security measure is better than none. You know, so the Watcher guards your body when you are off in other planes. Now, what does that mean? I get people that are like, this one person kept messaging me, and they're like, "Do you physically see the gods? Do you physically see the gate? What does it look like?" And I'm like, "It's in the book. How many times do I got to keep saying it?" Um, but the Watcher guards your body when you leave your body behind to go elsewhere. So when you are in that deep trance state in meditation, or doing a journey, or doing a gate walk or something like that, because you can adapt the Simon Necronomicon system to work with almost any kind of magic, which is why during my Magic for Hire stuff, I combine the Simon Necronomicon system with the Andy and Paco stuff. But when your body is left behind, the Watcher is there to protect it, because you can have some things that will try to influence you, or like try to attack the circle, when your attention, your spirit per se, is elsewhere, right? Whereas if you're doing a ritual or something, and you hear a bump in the night, or a crash behind you, which I've talked about in a couple of my videos, then you can recast the circle to make it thicker, for lack of a better term. But let's kind of dive into this here. So if you guys wanted to open it up to page 69 and read along, man, it feels like I'm a teacher again, but let's go with it. This is the book of the Conjuration of the Watcher. The formulae, as I received them from the scribe of Enki, our master and lord of all magic. Great care must be taken that this untamed spirit does not rise up against the priest, and for that reason a preliminary sacrifice must be made in a clean and new bowl, with the appropriate sigils inscribed thereupon, being the 3 gray carven signs on the rock of my initiation, that's the rock of invocations he talks about. And of course, that's the Ara, Aga, and Bandar, right? They must be engraved upon the bowl with a fine stylus, or painted thereon with dark ink. The sacrifice must be new bread, pine resin, and the grass olearbos, which is stinging nettle. These must be burned in a new bowl in the sword of the Watcher, with his sigil, which is the Bandar, engraved thereupon. So we know this sword of the Watcher has the Bandar on it, for starters. At hand, for he will inhabit such at the time of the calling of the Watcher, and will depart when he is given license to depart. So where does the Watcher inhabit? The sword. I had made a video on that. If you search like Magickology Watcher, I did make one on the true vessel of the Watcher a couple of years back. I'm getting old. Where I surmise that the Watcher's vessel isn't the Agamasaratu, because the Agamasaratu, I don't remember the exact translation off the top of my head right now, but I know it means a vessel for offering. So it's the bowl of the Watcher, but the sword of the Watcher is where the Watcher actually kind of, it's like his if you have a dog outside and you like tie the leash to like a chair or something, if you want to go back in the house and grab something, that grounds the dog from being able to run away, right? The sword is kind of the same thing. Hopefully my analogy didn't suck. Any hoozles. So the Watcher comes from a race different from men, and yet different from that of the gods, and it is said that he was with Kingu and his hordes at the time of the war between the worlds. Like I said, the Igigi sided with the ancient ones, and that's why they associate the Watchers with Kingu. But was dissatisfied and did cleave unto the armies of Lord Marduk. So the Watchers kind of switched sides. It's amazing how many times I read this book. Not everything sticks, partially because of brain damage and getting old, but hey. Wherefore it is wise to conjure in the names of the 3 great Watchers who existed before the confrontation, from whose born the Watcher and his race ultimately derive, and those 3 are Anu, Enlil, and Master Enki of the magic waters. And for this reason, they are sometimes called the 3 Watchers. So the Anu, Enlil, and Enki are called the 3 Watchers. Why? Because they're like the highest up there, so they see everything, right? The Watcher's called the Watcher because he watches what you do and protects you and stuff like that. But the ultimate Watchers are Anu, Enlil, and Enki at the top. Now, those three names are Mas Sarati, Mas Saratu, or Kia Mas Saratu. So that's those three. And the Watcher appears sometimes as a great and fierce dog who prowls about the gate or circle, frightening away the Edimu for who forever lurk against the barriers waiting for sacrifice. And the Watcher sometimes appears as a great and noble spirit holding aloft the sword of flames, which I think that's a reference to the flaming sword of the Kabbalah, which demonstrates the whole idea here, which is mirrored with, and on his descent is mirrored with the Ladder of Lights, the Kabbalah, and ascending up the tree, stuff like that. Where was I? And even the elder gods are awed thereby. And sometimes the Watcher appears as a man in a long robe, shaven, with eyes that never lose their stare. And the Lord of the Watchers, who's Enki, by the way, dwells, it is said, among the wastes of the Igigi, and only watches and never raises the sword or fights the Idimu, save when the covenant is invoked by none less than the elder gods in their council, like unto the seven glorious Afkalhu. So the seven Afkalhu are like the seven demons of the body that I've talked about in a previous video about Mesopotamian attributions to illness. But basically what I want you to glean here is it's saying that the Watcher appears in a bunch of different ways. So the Watcher, when you start working with this kind of thing, or even if you haven't for a long time, maybe this would help you out with this kind of thing. But the Watcher can appear differently to everyone else. Now, that's partially because we all have our own filters and stuff. What is scary to me is not scary to you. What's cool to me is what might not be cool to you. You might like pineapple on pizza, and I think that's really, really weird. Par example, I like peanut butter, and there's a couple people that I've met that don't think peanut butter is delicious. I think they need their head examined. But anyways, so you might see your Watcher as a person, a fierce dog, a noble warrior, a wolf, something like that. Maybe none of those images resonate with you, and you might see something completely different. You might see a lion or a puma or something like that. Or you might even just see a black mass. You might not see anything at all. And that's one of the biggest things that, man, I could go forever right now. This should be a live stream. But the point is that, all right, where was I going? So you might not see the Watcher at all, especially if you're first starting to work with magic and this kind of thing. If you don't have a lot of experience with visualization and things like that, and being able to perceive those kinds of things, you might get the presence or the idea that someone is there, kind of like that stuffy elevator feeling. Or your attention might keep being drawn to a certain corner of the room, and the Watcher's there, but like you can't see anything, so your mind's like trying to play tricks on you. The more and more and more and more and more that you do meditation and magic and an evocation and invocation and doing all these things to attune that radio transmitter to being able to perceive other things, the more likely you are to be able to see spirits like the Watcher. And they may come to you in any number of visualized forms because their energy translates through yours, and then your mind picks it up. In one of my videos that I made previously, I mentioned about in the movie Contact. If you haven't watched it, go see it. But spoilers. Anyways, in one part, the character comes in contact with a deceased family member, and it's actually an extraterrestrial. And at the beginning, you kind of see this reptilian-looking thing slithering towards her, and it's hazy, and then it forms into the relative. And the point is that the spirit went through kind of the character's filters in her mind, per se, to present her with something that would be non-threatening and meaningful. So energies and things translate that way. It's kind of like if I was to say something, if I was to say the same sentence to like 10 different people, they arguably might get a different interpretation of what I'm saying. It's why all of us can read a poem and kind of glean something different out of it because we're taking it in through our own filters. I'm looking at you, Robert Frost. Little inside joke for myself there. Now, there's two invocations here. The preliminary invocation and the normal invocation. The preliminary invocation is supposed to be done once. And that's done, if I can remember correctly. I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember. When the time has come to summon the Watcher for the first time, the place of the calling must be clean and the double circle of flour drawn about thee. And there should be no altar, but only the bowl, the new bowl with the three carbon signs on it, meaning the Ara, Aga, and Bandar. And, by the way, you put the bowl in the northeast corner. And the conjuration of the fire should be made. That's the conjuration of the fire god. And the sacrifices heaped thereupon. So we're talking about burning some, bread and pine resin. And trying to remember where it said it in the previous page. Yeah. Anyways, you guys can rewind the video and check that out. Let's see. And the sacrifices heaped thereupon into the burning bowl. And the bowl is now called Agamasaratu, and to be used for no other purpose save to invoke the Watcher. So, now you do the preliminary invocation during a full moon. That's the first time you do it. The preliminary invocation is the introductory kind of thing to inviting that Watcher in. Now, if you don't hear anything, see anything, smell anything, any of those experiences or whatever, one of the biggest lessons in evocation and invocation is that just because you didn't sense anything doesn't mean it didn't happen. It arguably means that your senses didn't pick it up. Okay, so that being the case, you do the preliminary invocation following the steps in the Simon Necronomicon, and then sit there and be with the energy. And you might feel a little nervous, you might feel a little something, but at some point that energy and that vibe is just going to kind of fade away. And that's when you can leave. Never, ever, 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 ever do an invocation or evocation. When you do the thing, and then you don't see what you want to see and hear what you want to hear and whatever, and you say, screw this, and you walk out of the room and you break the circle and whatnot, that's an opening a door to some bad schmutz. Okay? So that's a thing. Now, so one of the things about the invocation, which I'm not going to read because, that's kind of self-explanatory. You guys can pick the book up and read it. So you can make that invocation at any time the priest feels he is in danger, whether his life or his spirit, and the three watchers, and the one watcher will rush to his aid. So the preliminary invocation is done the first time you want to work with the watcher, and then if you ever feel like super threatened or whatever, you have a bump in the night, or you need something to pray because you're worried about that kind of thing. We're talking like bodily harm, real, safety is at danger kind of stuff like that. And then you have the normal invocation of the Watcher. That is done every month afterwards on every full moon. So now you're building a routine of every full moon. This is what I do. I do the normal invocation of the Watcher. I set up my ritual space. If all you're going to do is the normal invocation of the Watcher and call it a night, don't even bother with your altar. Make the 2 circles with the bowl of the Watcher in the northeast corner. Put the herbs in it. Grab the sword of the Watcher. Do the normal invocation. And then put the sword in the ground when you're done. Sit there and be with the energy and feel it. And when it wanes, then take the sword up and say goodbye. Because that's not really written. But you can say something to the lines of, thank you for watching over me. I now dismiss you. Bara bara edinazu. And then you can break your circle and be on your way. So the Watcher is something that it's going to set you up in a routine where every month you're going to be doing this kind of thing. So it's going to remind you that, hey, this is a system you're working with. So keep it up. Now that you have this monthly thing that you are doing, what you can do is start reading through the book all the time. Digest this. Do it by osmosis, basically. Get this thing crammed in here. Okay? Of course, you can't do that. If you just jam it in your ear, you wouldn't have to read it. But read it, annotate it, butcher it just like I did, and then keep going. So, anyways, that was a long one. Hopefully you guys put up with my rants and blah, blah, blah. But definitely let me know if you have any comments about this book or any of the stuff that I just talked about. If you want to do one-on-one with me on how to learn this book, or you're interested in a copy of one of these, then check out my Etsy shop. Any hoozles, I will catch you next time. Like and subscribe if you have not, and definitely check out the link down below to my link tree with my Magick for Hire, all of my books, and all of that other good stuff. Good hunting.